Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 455. And I moved my camera, so there's the first studio change that we've made here. It's been a minute for that. Let me catch up on what these. Thanks, Tom. Another vlog. Frequent viewer. I don't comment very often. Just want to say I appreciate all your hard work, videos, and streams. Fantastic. Might we see the Home Lab show return? Talking to other creators about their home labs. I have always taken inspiration from hearing about others in home labs. Yeah, I kind of lost track on that. It's one of those things of finding someone who's the right fit to do the show on a regular cadence. And that is sometimes a challenge, especially if a lot of people, it's not like there's a gluttony of us that are full-time creators that are able to do that. So I'm talking to a few people, and I kind of just parked it on the side, but I think I may bring that back. It just takes some time. I have a few other ideas I'm cooking up too. It's lots of ideas, and this is the worst time for ideas for me because I play outside a lot more in these fall months. These are like my favorite months is September and October because they're nice here in Michigan, and I spend a little bit more time outside. Then I double down for all the other months because it's less nice outside. Let's see here. Learned so much about networking, Tom. Instead of having a basic all-in-one router for my ISP, I have pfSense, fiber switches, VLANs, and AP. Awesome. All kinds of fun stuff. Just making clear that I appreciate your content and effort put into it. Yes. It's been kind of a fun ride. I did that video talking about the channel things, and probably many of you have seen it. It actually is a more popular video than I expected, which is cool. So thank you for all of you that, took the time to reply. It actually just has an absolute ton of comments on it. Ooh, and there's still more comments coming. Let's see. Let's share it so we can actually have a better discussion on all of this topic. Share my screen. They move things on me, and it just causes me to stare a little bit longer. All right. This all started with someone. Let me look. Is that person even commenting? This is a lot of comments. I didn't even see. Has this person done any more comments? Oddly, no. The person who initiated hasn't replied at all. Interesting. Either way, there's been a lot of great discussion in here. And I appreciate all the honest feedback a lot of people had. Just, what's missing? What would you like to see? And I heard StreamYard's going downhill. No, StreamYard's actually been getting better and better. They sat static for a long time at StreamYard. Like they just didn't do much. But they've actually added quite a few features and things like that. And it's there's a couple, hold on, I'm gonna grab something. Full disclosure, I am not sponsored by StreamYard, so I'm saying nice things about them, but it's also not because they gave me a duck. Because they have these little, I think the only place that says StreamYard, here we go, is on its side. This sits, and I look at the duck sometimes, but it sits on top of my camera. So I don't think they give these away. I just really wanted it. So when I met them at an event, I'm like, can I have a duck? They're like, I was like, can I have it? And they're like, yeah, I don't remember that they were giving a bunch away. Maybe they were, maybe they giving a lot away. Either way, I got a duck. But StreamYard's pretty good. This is the tool I use for streaming, recording things. It's overall been pretty good. Back to the topic at hand, though. The channel changes. Yeah, I noticed changes in them. I think about it, and I'm not someone who will just take a bunch of generic comments to try to make myself generic. These were comments of what made you subscribe first to the channel and what makes you stay or what made you wander off. And there's been a weird mix, though, of a couple things. And one of those, and I'm going to drop the link in here too. Anyone wants to go, this is just a link in my forums. One of the things that's changes. I just haven't done enough deep dives on there. And I need to get back to those. I feel that one. That is a comment I absolutely agree with. The weird comments are, and this is partly an algorithm problem, is people are like, well, Tom, you're doing too much UniFi content. And I'm like, I ran the numbers. I have, I think 14% of the videos that I made this year were UniFi. That's it. 14% contained, I mean, maybe in a vlog I mentioned it, but it's like dedicated UniFi content for produced videos. 15 or 14%. That's it. But because they get the most views, and I'm not always chasing views. Fun joke. If I was chasing views, I would do more Proxmox videos, and I plan to do some, but XCP-ng videos get the fewest number of views, but I'm using XCP-ng, literally using it. People think I'm out there promoting it. I'm like, no, I'm literally using this at clients. We are using this as infrastructure we installed at large companies. So it's not that I'm doing it to do it because I like it and only I would like it. There's actually a business use case behind it. So that is definitely a thing. But back to, some people do. And especially when you're a newer creator, you're not sure, and you're more apt to be very algorithmically driven. And if you're very algorithmically driven, UniFi is an easy low-hanging fruit to get you a lot of views. Therefore, some people will just keep doubling down on content. Well, what happens for me is UniFi gets more views when I do a UniFi video than when I do a ZFS deep dive video. And I published one a couple months ago. I'm publishing another one tomorrow where me and Alan Jude dive deep. And because it's a deep dive nerdy topic into the how ZFS works discussion, it's not going to get the views that a UniFi video does. So what people have the perception of, man, Tom does a lot of UniFi videos because the algorithm pops them up because it knows statistically more people will want them. This creates a problem for people who are trying to browse my channel. It's not that they're inundated with UniFi videos. It's just the algorithm suggests the most popular videos I do recently. And there's not a way to fix that, that I'm aware of. And the reality is I do UniFi videos because I also use and consult on UniFi, and they are a product that is very, very popular. They're hugely popular. They have really disrupted the market quite a bit. And people can, and I'm among those people who will complain when we get a ecosystem of a proprietary company that takes on too much. I don't love that. And I think the best way to describe, and many of the criticisms of UniFi are correct, it's not, I mean, UniFi is a good product, but good, what do you compare good to? Good's a standard you say when you look at the field of options out there. And the fact that there's just all these really terrible companies, it makes them look better. You're like, yeah, it doesn't suck. It's not, I wish it was open source, but you also then look around the competition and you're like, wow, they're bad. They make things look better. And it's unfortunately where we deal with a lot of things in tech. When we look at something and say it's good and you start having someone pick it apart, you're like, those are fair objections, but all the other companies do it worse. So I hate when we're always choosing the least worst option instead of the best option. That feels like tech in general sometimes. Anyways, get off my rant there. You move from OpenSense to pfSense, and I get the hate for pfSense, but I do believe those guys know more about their goals than the competition. Choice is great, though. Oh, yeah, you can criticize the goofy behavior of people over at pfSense. I have talked about this. I said there's just not an easy solution, and there's a delicate dance kept right now because the folks at Netgate, you have any opinion you want on them, and it may be valid or invalid, but it honestly doesn't matter as much as the reality of the upstream development of BSD is heavily dependent on people like the folks at Netgate. And the difference with the people at Netgate versus OpenSense is they're huge upstream contributors to FreeBSD, specifically around things that help firewalls. There's lots of people contributing still to BSD, but they're contributing, almost any company that contributes with a bias. That bias is, how does it solve the problem that they're basing their product on? They're a BSD-based product. They're going to solve problems related to that. So in the world of Netgate, they are enhancing BSD to make the system better for their firewalls. And OpenSense, because it's also based on BSD, benefits from it as well. And you can feel free to look it up. And I've covered this in my other videos on it. It's you can use OpenSense. It's not that I've had any problem with it. I have talked about some of their being behind on security or having bugginess, and those are well-known facts about it. But the bigger thing is you can't have a world without Netgate right now. That doesn't, if Netgate disappears for any particular reason, like they just stop being based on BSD, they stop contributing to BSD, that hurts OpenSense very directly. There's no easy answer for that. It's just, unfortunately, it's a problem. In pfSense, is there any way to implicitly allow a VLAN to the internet instead of just having to set a bunch of deny rules? I mean, if you don't have an allow rule to allow traffic, it technically, you can create a VLAN, but without an allow rule, it doesn't allow traffic out. So I'm not exactly understanding. The default is, unless you have a rule, it doesn't allow traffic. So you at least have to have one rule to allow traffic out. So is there a why to implicitly allow instead of having to set a bunch of, I'm not exactly sure your question, but by default, when you create a new VLAN, it doesn't allow traffic until you create a rule that allows the traffic. Yeah, it does deny its default. I see that. Okay, I'm catching up with the comments here. Oh, yes, it's Alan Jude again. That's who's going to be on there. So, yes, Alan, he's just a great guy. And it's kind of fun listening to him go deep into ZFS because he knows it so well. I've cited Clara Systems for years for really good articles, but certainly Alan's got a level of expertise that is pretty unmatched in people. And he explains it well. I'm sure there's other people who know lots about ZFS. Alan's also a good explainer. It's a good combination of, hey, he really does know ZFS and knows how development works, and also, can explain it very well. As you migrated your personal infrastructure, UniFi gateways from pfSense, what you and your company now recommend to your clients? UniFi gateways and APs, still pfSense for UniFi and APs. We have a bunch of deployed pfSense systems, and we're not a rip and replace just because we're bored. So when life cycles come up, it'll be evaluated. Maybe we'll go UniFi with some clients. We have clients that are in UniFi. It's not an all or nothing. People think everything's all or nothing, like you use one product. Sure, a lot of companies do. Lots of people are, I only settled on this one product, and when they switch to another product, they completely throw away the other one. It's a mix of both. For me, UniFi's became something with just last models and a year fan of MikroTik. I still understand UniFi firewalls. pfSense is so much more straightforward. I don't know. They're very different. pfSense doesn't have zones in the same way. So yeah, there's no zone firewalls in pfSense. You can do rule groups. So you can group interfaces together and do rule groups, which is similar to zones. They do handle things differently. And there is people who really don't like the fact that pfSense, because zone firewall is not a new concept, and it's not a UniFi only concept. It's been around before UniFi. Probably before UniFi. It's been around for years. Either way, it's new to the UniFi ecosystem. There's a lot of people who think it's the better way to do it. I think it's great. I don't really have a problem with the zone firewalls. I find them relatively easy to understand. But I also understand how pfSense does it, and I don't have a problem with the way they do things. I think the return traffic rule is a confusing part. I tried to be clear on that when I did my UniFi to pfSense migration video, because people don't understand, why do you need a return traffic rule? I'm glad UniFi exposed that you need it, because it's just a function of how the Linux firewall tooling works. But yeah, the other thing I want to address, of course, is the pfSense videos. People keep asking about them, and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And nobody ever seems to reply to that. I replied so many people, what is the pfSense video you want to see? And dead air. I don't think even emails I got from people are, I wish you'd do more videos. And I replied to them, what videos? I don't know, just more. And I'm like, I don't like rehashing content. Like, for example, my OpenVPN video on pfSense. It's great, in my opinion. It's got all the things one would want. I think it's got all the ciphers, the details, and what you should choose. I could redo that video, but I don't know why I would redo it. It's literally the same, even though it's been 2 or 3 years. So then I'm never sure what to do. I'm like, what is the thing that people want to see is always the challenge. Because sometimes it may be, I have a ton of projects that I've got coming up. And I had in here is like some of my next projects. Some of the next ones, obviously, you know what I'm doing. That video should be published tomorrow with Alan Jude. I just did my cloud tipping point video. I have some hardware projects I want to cover. I really want to see sooner than later. I'm going to get these ZFS torture tests done. I want to do some real world testing and show you me breaking ZFS and what it takes. And I think this is helpful because I don't mind. And also I have a lot of hardware, just yanking things out and seeing what happens. And that way I'm simulating catastrophic failures. And so you can understand those failure modes and what needs to be done. There's a lot of changes in TrueNAS 25. Any other long form projects I'm working on, it's going to be getting started with insert name of some of the products I've talked about. I already did XCP-ng, so don't worry. You're not going to have to suffer through Tom doing an XCP-ng video. I may do some more videos with Proxmox. There's a interesting video I'm working on. At least I think it's interesting. And let's get some real world feedback. By the way, it's going to happen. The feedback is so the video can be tuned, but the video is going to happen. And it's this concept I've had of what if it all went away? What if, and this is a reality that has happened to some people because of natural disasters and things like that. What if all the information that we're so used to, we think about our connections, we're talking about firewalls and things like that. What if you didn't have it for some period of time? And there's a few apps that actually will work completely offline for mapping. There's apps that will let you mirror large pieces of the internet, such as Wikipedia. There are some cool tools for doing this. So my plan is to make a video of how to live offline. In some ways, I guess it's a prepper video. and I know there's maybe some of you that like those YouTube channels. That's a whole rabbit hole into itself of, living off grid type things. And part of the premise I'll have to say in that video is I'm not going to go down to the talking about solar power or anything else or living off grid. That has been well covered by people who specialize in building all kinds of off grid things. My assumption will be you have solved your solar or electricity problems. You have some way to power these devices. Well, and I'm going to start with some low powered devices because obviously cool if you can have generators in a solar farm to run a high wattage home lab, but I'm going to be more realistic of lower powered hardware, Raspberry Pis, for example, and the ability to have all that curated knowledge that you may need, such as maps and how to get places, in an offline format. And I think that it's one of the projects is called Internet in a Box, which is kind of cool. I also, LLMs I will throw in there as part of it because I like the concept that you're having a conversation with a corpus of knowledge. And if you're somehow stuck off grid, you're like, great, I have a copy of this massive thing of knowledge, but can it get a little more specific? Because I just want to ask a question and not have to search. So I'm going to throw that in there as well. But I think it's kind of a fun topic that I'll be diving into in the video and listing all the tools that are out there and how they work. Turn notifications off on my phone. There we go. I agree. It doesn't make sense changing something if it's working, but for new projects and clients, are you going UniFi only or pfSense and UniFi? pfSense and UniFi. Like I said, we're not a single choice place. There's still advanced networking configurations for pfSense that make a lot of sense for people. Sorry for off topic. I have one question, but it's out of scope. If someone help me. Silence my HP. Ooh, so he's my lab. May soon change it to some Dell. there are probably some, not something I've tested, but there's probably some different fans you could put in it. I don't ever use any used HP servers. Maybe it's just I just don't run across them as often myself. I'm certainly not looking for them, and I've just generally always gone with Dell for used servers. But just any of the enterprise level servers, they're just not ideal for low noise situations. So it can be tricky. Hopefully someone has some suggestions, but I don't have enough direct experience with any HP servers to really offer direct suggestions. And also, how noisy is it? Like, is it just some general fan noise, or the fan spun up high? It's a whole challenge. Yeah, I mean, rigging up some Noctua swaps and things like that may be a way to do it. Well, there's fan control, but some of the problems are, even at the lowest setting, a Dell R740 server is generally noisier than some of my other custom built servers with Noctua fans. So it's a whole series of, it's a subjective problem. Unless you're trying to target specifically, like I'm trying to get to this noise level, and that's what gets tricky. Noctua has a big fan club. Yes, absolutely. Gotta do the play on words and all the puns. Gotta have some fun with all of that. But nonetheless, back to topic at hand, channel update and follow-up. I'm open to, and back to that forum post here, if someone has a specific suggestion other than more pfSense videos, I don't mind, and I'm very open to feedback on that as a topic. I have a few more that I want to do. I am testing out the new, well, I haven't tested it yet, but I have a lab that I'm assembling with some more pfSenses, in the plural, because I want to try their management tool. We haven't used it at CNWR, so I'm trying it myself and see how it works. So that is a potential video that's been upcoming. I will do I might do a new getting started video with pfSense, only because my old one is from years ago, and from that there's change. The other videos, like the OpenVPN or just general firewall rule videos, are less, like, they're not that old. I just haven't done a getting started with video in a long time. And there are a lot of people saying, well, why don't you do one for OpenSense? And I don't have the interest in it. I know OpenSense enough, but I've also run into quirks with it. We just had someone, and it's because OpenSense didn't support, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It had to do with routing and WireGuard. You can do it in pfSense. They tried to get us to do it. Someone like contracted us, like, to try to see if they can make this thing work. But I think we ran into the wall of, it just doesn't have that functionality. There's a few functionalities in way IPsec is implemented in OpenSense that is not as full featured as pfSense. It's one of those things where it's hard to, you got to really spend some time, because it's deep in the weeds is where you run into the differences between pfSense. Like the functional overall, yeah, pfSense and OpenSense are extremely similar, based on the same things, but it's those deep little details that matter in some situation where you're doing a lot of different routes with IPsec, and you're like, oh wait, yeah, it doesn't group the interfaces together in the same way, and therefore can't do this particular type of routing that is in pfSense. pfSense has way better documentation than OpenSense, so a lot of times what people are doing is following along a pfSense guide to implement an OpenSense, because even though the menus are different, the concept is the same of where you want to get to. But yeah, that's where it gets challenging. You do a lab setup review for some of the viewer setups, just gives 5 suggestions and 5 things you liked. Yeah, there's that. I can't tell. It feels clickbaity, because I know it doesn't Linus do some setup reviews. They're not views. I don't know. I gotta admit, I have watched studio reviews because I've been building my studio, so maybe there's some benefit to it. I don't know. It's hard to figure out if there's probably somewhere I could do that. Hard to say exactly where. I'll have to figure out if there's some way to do that. Like to see more content on virtualization? I'm coming from extensive VMware shop. Is there a concept of distributed port groups or switches? Is there anything like NSX or Proxmox? Both Proxmox and XCP-ng do have a software-defined controller. There is a back end, and I know less about it in Proxmox and more in XCP-ng. You can do VXLAN, you can do GRE. It does have, I believe it's Open vSwitch and XCP-ng that's on the back end of it. But I have a whole video on networking on XCP-ng. Matter of fact, I'll drop a link here. I've been I did this a while ago, and it's just worth bringing up again because it's one of those things. It falls off, and people don't really realize, may not know I created something. So here's a link for y'all to click. But this is an entire curated list of best practices, getting started, building XO from source, storage, shared storage, ZFS storage, understanding CPU management, memory management, backups, disaster recovery planning, whole section on networking, monitoring and maintenance, set up XO emails. I have my tutorial for Graylog in here. Oh, I do have a weird question. Maybe someone here knows. There's a lot of people who are, they don't like my Graylog video because they don't like that it uses Docker. And the Docker comes from the people at Graylog. This is not some third-party maintained Docker. And people are like, well, I don't want to use Docker. I'm like, well, they have instructions on how to set it up without Docker. And people are like, well, they're long and hard, and I want an easier tutorial on how to set it up without Docker. And I'm like, well, the reason we use Docker is because it's easier than the longer tutorial. So I'm always kind of puzzled by that. Like, I don't understand what their dislike for Docker is. And I also don't understand why they think it's there's like Docker makes things easier, which is why we have the popularity of containers. So kind of an interesting things. I don't know. Why don't you create videos talking about those shortcomings? Stand up, demonstrate the shortcomings, or are you post touchdown? Oh no, it's just the difficulty of doing that. It's so nuanced. It also, I don't know this answer unless I spend time with like the OpenSense support people. My understanding through one of my technicians who was trying to solve a problem that we couldn't get working with IPsec because of some type of port or interface grouping problem. I don't know if there's a way to do it in OpenSense because there's no documentation, or if there's just, I don't know how to do it. So do I do it? Have a bunch of people tell me I'm wrong? You can see why that's a challenge. So and the shortcomings are nuanced. They're not deep. They're minor, but they may matter to you. And maybe there's a different way to do it in OpenSense. And I've asked before, and I don't think anyone's ever come forward. I said, who's an OpenSense expert that could really tell me the differences between these? And the people I've talked to, some people have reached out, oh, I know OpenSense. And I ask them something more in depth. They say, oh, I don't use that feature. So I kind of fall flat. So it's not that I'm opposed to touching it. It's, do I spend 20 hours of my time, for example, really diving deep into it to then show these couple minor differences? It's a value proposition. If someone could point them out more directly, I'd love it. But yeah, I don't have an easy answer for that one. I'm not opposed to it. It's just like one of those. Yeah. For pfSense, OpenSense, I think worth covering the export and import configurations. I've got a video on that, on how to import things in pfSense, not in OpenSense. I don't know if they work the same. Docker's too easy. Do I have a chapter on clustering? I need to do a new one because it's gotten easier. So I will set up a high availability cluster. I have an older video on it, and it's valid. for building a high availability setup, but it's older, so the interface is a little bit different, but not it's easier now than it used to be. So I will do an updated video on that. But that's actually the nice thing, is I have plenty of new videos to do on XCP-ng. I just did a recent video on how I set up Docker. So hopefully you may find it helpful. I just don't play with any of the SDR stuff. Not that I don't think it's cool. I just really haven't spent the time on it. I want to play with Open Mesh. That is on my to-do list. Open Mesh, and I want to get my ham license. So there's two things that I'll throw on the project list. Open Mesh is really cool. I don't know if there's videos that I'll make on it or not, but I definitely think it's a neat thing to play with. Definitely just cool. There's a cool factor for that for sure. Me looking this one though, I don't know if I have that video embedded here. Admin tips and disaster recovery. Nah, look the channel. When did I do the XCP-ng HA? Oh, it's actually, I mean, it's not that old. It's from 5 years ago. So this video is 5 years old. I think this is the part that's automatic now. You don't have to, I think this is built into the UI, so it'll automatically choose the HA in a heartbeat. You don't have to specify it from the command line. You still can. The command line still works, but you don't need to use it now, I think. I think that's one of the changes they made. No, I would not make will you make any videos about being a ham? I will not make tutorial videos or training videos for me studying for the ham license. There's a bug with YouTube. If I go off topic, I like motorcycles, for example. If I do a video on motorcycles and it pushes it out to my subscribers and they're like, I don't like motorcycles. I like Tom. I don't like motorcycles. I'm mad. I'm going to watch this video. The channel will get punished because it'll go, wow, we suggested a video that your audience didn't like. We probably shouldn't keep suggesting your videos to the audience. They don't seem to like your videos anymore. So you kind of got to keep a tech channel. And if it wanders too far off from the tech it covers, it can be very punishing for it. Me and my YouTube friends have had a lot of discussion about this, and it's a dumb problem for sure. Is it possible to put XCP-ng on top of a desktop Linux OS, just like I can do with Debian 13 desktop and turn to Proxmox as well? No, this is actually a huge fundamental difference with the way XCP-ng works and the way Proxmox works. And this will anger the Proxmox people because technically Proxmox is just an orchestration tool for KVM. And that seems to bother the Proxmox people when I say that, versus Xen is a true appliance type of hypervisor, because top to bottom, Xen is managed by the whole Xen hypervisors managed with XCP-ng and put together by Vates, right down to the repositories. It does not pull from a standard distro. It is a customized distro called XCP-ng, essentially. It's very different. Now, Xen is open source, and you can load Xen, and Xen has been the Linux kernel for a long time. So yes, you could load Xen, but it's not the same as XCP-ng. So there's a lot of nuance in there. Speaking of open mesh, I love the idea of a distributed local network for emergencies or a backup. Yeah, it's kind of related to my topic I mentioned earlier for things. Well, no, XCP-ng is different. It's not like that. And I've got a video where I've talked about this. We can bring it up because there's a good detailed explainer here. And it's written by Vates. So yes, of course, they're going to be favorable, but Vates is also an honest company. I've not found anything about Oliver that, he's not shady at all. This is all open source. Orchestration first projects, batteries not included. Cloud Stack, OpenStack, OpenNebula are great. What they're designed for, giving you cloud-like features, multi-tenancy APIs, automation, and self-service portals. They are dashboards, the control panel, the interface layer. But that's what all are. And he's not talking out of turn here. Zen Orchestra was originally just an orchestration layer on top of Zen Server. It was never meant to replace or maintain the hypervisor underneath. Simply exposed already there. The Zen Orchestra is the orchestration part, but XCP-ng is the entire piece of it. Proxmox VE, integrated surface, outsourced foundation. Proxmox is well known, very popular. It's not a dig at Proxmox. It's an architectural difference in how they're made. Proxmox is managing KVM. They are not KVM. That is a big difference. And I say it like that because Vates is also very involved with the Vates team in the Zen server organization. So they're actually at a layer above with Zen, then pulling it into XCP-ng and creating the XCP-ng distro. It's that functional difference that I think it matters, but a lot of people are like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm fine with an orchestration tool. And yeah, it does work fine. So it's a lot to talk about. I don't like the wall guard approach to XCPG. I want to pass through certain USB policy, modify the USB policy comp file to allow VM access. I don't think it's a walled garden. It's it's appliance versus you can do what you want. The tinkerer in me loves the fact that Proxmox will let me apt-get my way to whatever I want to do with the Proxmox server because it's just Debian underneath. That's great. But if you're trying to manage a bunch of businesses that have appliances is way easier than businesses that have a ability to load whatever they want and customize things whatever they want. Also, one of the bigger challenges with Proxmox, and this is my favorite part, is let's pull this up because I set out a community poll. And I want to share the results of that poll. I believe the results are public when the poll is being run. So, have you updated Proxmox version 9? 1.6 thousand votes. So 1,600 people voted. No. Yes. And do you know why that is? Is because Proxmox is known to explode on update. It is a known thing with Proxmox that, yeah, some of the updates sometimes break things. And this is where that disconnect comes in versus XCP-ng updates. We've got servers that have been running in place for years. You just in place update, in place update, in place update. No problem. VMs are all still there. Matter of fact, you could move from Citrix over to XCP-ng with an in-place update and all your VMs and all your settings are there. That is one of the reasons I like the XCP-ng so much is because it's very stable, it's very predictable, and dare I say a bit boring, which if you're trying to support things from a business, you kind of like boring. What's your preferred enterprise implementation of Coruscant, Quorum, Tiebreaker for Proxmox cluster? I don't. You either use a proper number of Proxmox hosts, or we don't. I mean, for Home Lab, I'm not using any HA in Home Lab with Proxmox. I've only done just a couple systems, so therefore, never an issue. I disagree with the article. Orchestrator is a tool that takes configuration, applies it. What XC does, DOM0 does, Proxmox daemon does. No, you're conflating these. And they even say Zen Orchestra is the configuration layer, but DOM0 is different. Your Proxmox 8 to 9 had issues. Dpackage solved it for me, but there were a couple of stressed hours. Yeah, and if you're trying to manage, we've got, I've done consulting with a lot of people and talked to many people that have had, hundreds of hosts. I mean, if you solve it on one Proxmox host, it should work for the next X number of them. But obviously, that's never something you really want to have to do, is like, oh yeah, we got to solve this problem. We already deal with that with Windows. Microsoft's updates are trash. Microsoft just doesn't care because they don't have to, because you're essentially a monopoly. So they release updates that just break things, and that's acceptable. And Proxmox, I think, does a pretty good job. I don't think it breaks as bad as Microsoft, but it's still, there's a reason for that poll being, well, that many people saying I'm not updating for a little while because it'll break things. And I've talked to people that told me it broke things. Yeah, and it's such a mix. Some people updated fine, some people didn't update fine. I don't know enough about what factors go into that. Like, I don't have, the biggest problem is when the home lab people are doing it. Home lab people are notorious tinkerers. So figuring out what they tinkered with becomes a challenge. With XCP-ng, there's less knobs to turn and things to twiddle because it does the thing it does. It's a purpose-built appliance. So awesome. It's not likely to have variations. And I know there's just back and forth. I love virtual machines. I think it's one of my favorite tools in the whole technology stack because I do tinker with all my VMs, with things that run Docker. And I love that almost any of them, if you look at things I'm working on. So right now, Tom is doing and this makes my videos easy to do as well. So let me pull this tab up. This is my internet in a box test. Hold on. This is one, what I mentioned earlier about having everything available offline. There's a snapshot based before setup. And I can just go here real quick and say, hey, create a VM from the snapshot, because once I've solved, this is all done with a whole series of Ansible scripts and things like that. And I had some bugs with it, but I want to make sure after I did the tweaking, I note the tweaks I did, rerun it. And I like to just be able to jump the VM back to the beginning, re-go through the steps. That way, when I hit record and actually make the tutorial, it's nice and fast. So I love tinkering. I love how fast I can jump back or even clone this particular snapshot and have another version. It's really fast. The backups are easy and well integrated, because I want to, back up or integrate any of these. Like, cool, here's the backup. It runs, it validates, it does all the things. It has full DR recovery, all built into one system. That's why I like it. It's really about simplicity. All my tweaking goes on inside the VMs, not with the hypervisor. More pfSense videos idea. I struggle to track block packets. Is it due to firewalls or pf blocker ng? Typically lose firewall rules or turn on MG. Yeah, maybe I could do a new try. I have some troubleshooting videos. I do cover that in them, but maybe a new one. I think some of that has changed. What do you use to automate configuration of TrueNAS scale? I would love an Ansible solution, but there doesn't seem to be a good solution for this. I have no automation for TrueNAS scale. I never need to automate it because I don't do, almost everything I do with TrueNAS scale is one-off. I don't need to build exactly the same deployment 100 times on TrueNAS scale. I go, hey, what does client need? Okay, they need a share for this, a share for that. Cool, done. They need to join Active Directory. All right, here's a few steps, done. It's not like that is a repeatable, like I need to do this every client with exactly the same thing. So maybe I don't understand what use case you have that you want to do it with Ansible, but they do have an API. So you can do a lot of configuration via the API. It would probably make more sense than Ansible for TrueNAS, but I don't know what you were trying to accomplish, or if you have some repeatable build thing. Yeah, one day we'll get dark mode. I mean, you can use the whatever tool there's a browser thing that makes things dark mode. So yeah, no dark mode. That's definitely coming. Do you do yes. Usually Active Directory, but yeah, Active Directory integration. I will do a video on that at some point. I don't know what that point is. I need to I hate playing with Windows. Is my biggest reason for it is I just hate using Windows, and I do have one in my lab here. Because this is on my list. I set up my Windows Server 2025, and I'll build out the 80 roles, and I'm going to tie it to a TrueNAS. It'll be a video I do. So I did this because I know there's a demand for it, but I feel icky every time I touch Windows. If you notice, it's already tagged. This is a YouTube lab system. It's the only reason it exists. So it can be in the YouTube lab. It does. I don't use Windows. Dark mode is a must. I'd be willing to true XCP-ng if it had a spare piece of hardware, but I don't. What is private cloud director and why would I use it? What compelling things does it offer? Oh, I have zero interest in a closed source system. If I'm going to look at any other platform tools or management, it's gonna be open source. Is it when this is one of those ones like there's open source ones that exist? Why would I look at a closed source one? Especially closed source companies are in. I'll throw Nutanix under the bus because I pointed this out when I was doing the comparisons before. People didn't like this, but before Nutanix became a bit more popular because of the VMware stuff, Nutanix was trying to sell the company. They were trying to get it off the market because the stock has performed so poorly. They're turned it around not because they turned it around, I should say, that they were given a gift by Broadcom of, hey, we're just going to do a speed run and destroy as much as we can of all the users that are using VMware. So it caused a big disruption in the market, leading to more people looking at things. But XCP-ng is not using KVM. It uses Xen as the hypervisor. But Nutanix, it's another closed source one. So why would I use it? When Proxmox, which is good, I have nothing against Proxmox. It's not a complaint. It's a architectural difference of why I think I prefer XCP-ng. But nonetheless, I know people, my friends over at 45 Drives use a lot of Proxmox, and I'm looking more into it. I've had good conversations with them. I've had conversations with Wendell from Level 1 Techs. I'm willing to look more into Proxmox, but I have no interest at all in looking at closed source companies. There's no benefit. Like, why would I want a company that can instantly pull the rug out from under me? What do they offer that makes me in any way compelled to use them? So I don't mind suggestions for reviews, but there are some parameters around them. And the biggest parameter is going to be, why would I want to look at a closed source company? Like that's a tough one. There are some closed source companies. I'm not saying UniFi is closed source. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to defend UniFi. I wish they were open source. They're not. It is what it is. UniFi is a different ecosystem. And unfortunately, and many of you feel this with me, I wish there was an amazing open source firewall that had all the features of UniFi. I would absolutely, if you said, hey, Tom, here's a firewall that has all the features like UniFi with the ability to manage all these things such as switches and access points in one dashboard, I would be singing praises and doing videos and talking tutorials. But until that exists, here we are. I don't know. I've heard Nutanix is a little bit better priced than VMware, but I don't really know. Speaking of open source, this is officially my third week switch from Windows to Linux. Fedora has been great. I will not go back, at least for personal use. Awesome. Between Ubuntu, I'm just not a big user of it. Nothing against it. And I'm certainly not qualified to tell you what distro. I don't do enough distro comparisons because I'm not a distro hopper. I use what works, which for me on my desktop that I'm sitting at, that I use my editing tools for my videos, I use Pop! OS because Pop! OS works really, really well with DaVinci Resolve without a bunch of fuss. There are some helper scripts to get DaVinci Resolve and some of my editing tools working on Ubuntu. I need to play around with it because I think Ubuntu's got some nice features, but Yeah, I've not really had a reason to go all the way over to Fedora. My biggest reason is I apt-get install my way to things, so I know my way around very well with the apt system. So it's just mostly what I stick with. Think we must push MikroTik that way. Oh, I have no influence on MikroTik. I I think MikroTik's not a bad device. The problem with MikroTik is when you're trying to do some large scale central management, it's great. I mean, MikroTik's a great solution for the home lab, but if you're trying to do a lot of switches at scale, now you have a problem of how do I manage all of them, especially monitoring all of them versus UniFi's got just really nice dashboards that will do monitoring, notifications, and everything. They're making it too easy for doing all that. And it's just missing on all their stuff. I've done a video on Rest Desk. I like it. I still use it. No complaints. Linux is getting better, but I still need my Windows game rig. Yeah, for the moment, I am still using a laptop with one laptop has Windows on it for games. And it's not for someone's going to say, but Tom, games under Steam and so many of them work and blah blah blah. It's the stupid, and if there's a workaround for this, let me know. And I guess it's on a per game basis. It's the anti-cheat things that they have in games if you play anything online. I like some of the online games. They won't play if you run Linux because you can't run whatever BS they run. You end up having to build your own tooling for MikroTik, stuff using their API. The video from Serve the Home on MikroTik was interesting. They did a new one. I haven't watched the Serve the Home. I like Patrick. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him from time to time, but I haven't watched any of his videos in a while. Oh yeah, I guess I do. Fair enough. I do have a Windows OBS box. I don't think about it much because it literally just runs OBS. It runs OBS, which is how I pull all my video feeds in. It works fine. It runs Windows. It's not bad. Speaking of Nutanix, do either Proxmox or XCP-ng have hyperconverged storage option? VMware has vSAN, for instance. Yes. Proxmox can use Ceph underneath for hyperconverged storage, and XCP-ng, they have their own. It's Exo store. It runs Linbit underneath for those wondering what glues it together. Zen doesn't really have hardware limitations the same way. No, they don't, like, not the way VMware does. VMware is like, that's too old. Sorry, you're not doing it. Zen actually works great on a lot of older hardware. Matter of fact, it works good on a lot of newer hardware. The rise of dual boot. Yeah. Well, the nice thing is instead of dual boot, you can often do dual NVMe. So you can just tell it which NVMe to boot from, which I prefer because that way an update from Windows doesn't nuke your grub install. Just got home, just had an idea for a video, recover getting a domain, how to incorporate it into your home lab, the current best software for connecting securely to both internal and external. Maybe some explainers on that, because I do things like reverse proxy, but I don't know that publicly exposing your domain is a great idea. I mean, we technically have a video on how to do it, which I could refer to. So I could talk about like the overall big picture side of it, because the specifics are things like, okay, if you want to publicly expose things, you could use something like Pangolin. We have a video Matt did a great job with to expose Pangolin to services. I just prefer VPN, but I know enough people asked about things like Pangolin. It's a good solution too, because they're looking for an alternative to Cloudflare tunnels. And yeah, it's another way to do that, but maybe kind of just an overall picture for it. It may make sense. Just watch your video for setting up the mini flex switch. Thanks for that video. What happens when pfSense removes ISC for DHCP for Kia only? I'm not familiar with JSON. Well, you don't have to do anything in JSON when you do the switch. They handle that for you. So there's nothing you have to do. I'm running XCP-ng and a Dell R320 with Ivy Bridge Xeon runs great. I also have a X3 AMD machine. Yeah, some older equipment. You are doing the dual NVMEs. Like I said, that's not a bad solution. That's the way I was doing it before. Do you share stuff with family members or friends? I don't as of yet, but I have Pangolin in addition to the VPN, anticipation of troubleshooting VPN for people being a pain. Well, I would recommend like an overlay VPN because it's easier. Just set up something like NetBird and away you go. NetBird will allow for kind of a seamless connection. Probably one of the easiest way to do it. Yeah, I don't think Cloudflare tunnels are bad for web development. My complaint with Cloudflare tunnels is you're building on someone else's platform that, hey, it's free until it's not. And Cloudflare seems at the moment well-intended. They want to offer you a free service that has security and ACLs attached to it and some cool features. And I think that's great. But you're building it on a platform that is free today and subject to all their usage policies, which of course is a controversial topic because they have like, don't use video, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. But you're also going, you know, what if it's not free? And what if you build out this for a lot of your client solutions that you're providing and you're billing for, hopefully, but now your bill just got bigger because Cloudflare goes, we think each tunnel is going to be $100 a month. That sounds reasonable because look at all these people using this free service. That's where I kind of have a problem. I just have a lack of faith in large corporate companies, and maybe a couple of you here do too. I'm just saying. For testing, oh yeah, all day long. For actual building for product, I try to minimize the level of risk I'm introducing by building things on proprietary products. It's just a better way of thinking. At least in my opinion. People can tell me I'm just wrong. I also did my cloud video, and people seem to be really talking about that. And within my cloud video, I show Rocky Linux lent me some of their slides, and we talk about some of the cloud bills that they got. And I have talked to many companies that are just like, oh yeah, we're used to paying $47,000 a month for our cloud. And they're like, $47,000 a month. Let me look at this. Let's get a little deeper here. They've just always paid these things. Actually, another company, I think they were telling me, well, I used the more poignant example of 37 Signals. They were spending they're moving out of the cloud, saved them like $10 million. And yeah, the numbers scale upward quite a bit. Oh, let's see. Do you have any VLAN tagging on storage network to segment hosts? Not on the storage. Storage network's a dedicated network. I mean, you could make it a VLAN, but it's probably best if it's its own dedicated switching fabric. For home labs, VLANs are fine. The Cloudflare free DNS rug pull of 2032 is going to be painful. Yes. I would say yes, mechanical drive still makes sense. I can't store, I mean, unless you have a budget that says, hey, let's go solid, but I'm still storing on mechanical because of the volume of data I have. I mean, I have some money in savings. I could spend it on non-spinning drives, but I don't think it would be the best use of my money. So I do not. I'm going to be honest. I would not store everything on solid states unless you just have the budget for it. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just a budget problem. I assume the same for UniFi security gateway for connecting locations via VPN. I don't understand the question. Maybe I'm missing a piece of context. Cloudflare tunnels, TOS prohibits certain kinds of traffic, like video streaming. Yep, sure does. You have to be enough for them to notice. Yeah. Jay's kind of gone in a different direction. So I still talk to him. Me and Jay are still friends. He didn't have time for the Home Lab show, and so we're doing different things. He doesn't live. I don't think he lives by me anymore. Please, we don't talk about this much, but Jay moved a couple times, and I was like, oh wait, you're in a different place. He just rebuilds the studio, look the same at different locations. I thought OpenSense was one of the best open source firewalls that can also be virtualized on Type 1 hypervisors and others. It's a matter of opinion, but there's nothing. I mean, go ahead and use it if you want. Tailscale is fine too. I don't have a problem with Tailscale, but I like NetBird better. And full disclosure, they're a sponsor. But I was saying nice things about them before they became a sponsor. It's kind of the opposite. I said nice things about them, and then they became a sponsor. NetBird is open source. Tailscale with actually, I think, has more features than Tailscale now. How do you connect two locations past ISP firewalls without routing service? NetBird will do that too. That is an option. Generally speaking, with businesses, they have public IP addresses, but if we have two locations without a public IP address, yeah, NetBird is an option for that. Mechanical versus SSD is about amount of data speeds you need accessing. My home lab has 8 16 terabyte hard drives and 2 NVMe for high speed access. And I have similar setup myself. Let's go here. Log into this. Actually, this server's got to be replaced. It's got to be upgraded. But this pool is called, where's the name at? I thought the name showed up here. Oh, yeah. This is the flashy pool. And there's the rusty pool. Zooming in does not make this look better. Hopefully you can see that. Anyways, I have flashy and rusty. So flashy is just 4 solid state drives. And this is where all the archives of data go. Pretty simple. Oh, you're talking about do I feel the same way about UniFi? By the way, if you didn't know, you can now, and this is what they're moving to. If you're using the UniFi SD-WAN, they're allowing you to start self-hosting this. So that becomes a moot point. Yeah, if I was relying on the SD-WAN that requires their cloud, well, it's a little bit different because UniFi is technically making money on selling you the hardware, but fair point. They could also, if you get dependent on it, make money for selling you their cloud access. But UniFi doesn't require cloud access. As a matter of fact, the VPNs in UniFi, provided you have public IP addresses, you don't require their system at all. As long as at least one system has a public IP, you can have all the other systems connect to it. So there's no requirement to use their cloud, with the exception of if you wanted to use their SD-WAN features, I guess you can call it, but that keep track of where things are. But they allow you to they have a self-hosting option for that now with their new UniFi. And I'm actually working on a video for that because we've been migrating a bunch of systems over to it. Lots. I could tell stories all day, but I'm not going to go into all the business stories today on this. Although this marks 22 years I've been in business. So that's interesting too. Yeah, it's really cool that they're doing this. It's kind of a nice feature of Ubiquiti overall. But yeah, I've been in business now for 22 years. And Is it the ship of Theseus or the business of Theseus? My business has changed a lot over the years. So is it the same business? I mean, as a legal entity, yes. The government bodies that regulate businesses here in the United States do recognize me as the same company in the tech category, but there's been a lot of things in between that I've done. I used to have an electronics store. I used to have a retail store. I used to fix TVs and VCRs back in 2004. In addition to, because I was always Lawrence Systems, the enterprise and business consultant person, because I worked at that. So yeah, it's been a long time that I've been doing business. It's kind of weird to think about sometimes, the fact that it's just been that many years. Yeah, it's the same but better over upgrades the experience. There's just been a lot of changes. I don't do the things I used to do 22 years ago. I don't recommend the software. Well, no, I'm still an open source advocate for before I started my company, after I started my company, until to today. I have still worn the title of open source advocate. So yeah. I had heard from some talking heads there would be a new direction. Well, I don't know about new direction, just deeper dives into things. And I am talking, me and Jeff are going to do some things together. Jeff was on my vlog last week, so he'll be on again. And I might be making some appearances on his as well. So yeah, I've been open source advocate is something I can say for over 25 years. I have been an open source advocate. So pretty simple, but yeah, Tom push. Don't expect me to push Apple products. That's for sure. Oh, any info on how you started business and your business channel? Yeah, if you look for the business channel there, if you just search like business and some of that stuff, you'll find it. I've got some old videos I left up on that topic for how I started my business. Also, if you head over to my website, and maybe I haven't decided because it's just vanity at this point to do it. I've thought about doing, I mean, it's a public page. I have this. So this is, my story and walks you through sysadmin, IT, starting the company. I could do a video that I embed in this to talk further in depth about things. But I don't know. I feel like it's just, I try to bring educational content. And I think there's a level, because I'm always curious about how someone got to where they are. So I don't know. Any more business technicalities? I don't know. I haven't been passionate about talk. I felt like I hashed through a lot of the topics and don't feel like talking about more of them, but I'm open to suggestion on that. At some point, maybe I'll kickstart it. The problem is I'm hesitant to say I'll commit to something because then I have to commit to doing it. So and if you say yes to too many things, you can't get them all done. And then people say, hey, I remember you said yes to this, this, and this. So I try to be understanding of my time and understanding of my capabilities. And that's why it's hard to find like some trusted people who may want to partner with me that can be consistent and concise and on brand with me. I care more about the quality of the content, not the quantity. I want more quantity, but never, ever at the sacrifice of quality. That's even why I mentioned at the beginning of this, like the deep dives I want to do. I miss doing some of those. I think I need to do more of them. But yeah, you should keep the older videos up somewhere just so we can send on a random Easter egg hunt midstream. Most of them are up. The only ones I really get rid of, there's no value in certain really old videos if they have the same title. Like I took down old pfSense VPN videos because why keep them when I have a newer one in its place? So yeah. Self-hosted gaming emulator for legacy games. Not really. I have, hold on. And these are relatively inexpensive now. I love retro games. I have the Retroid Pocket. I think this is a great device. This is how I play all my retro games. I don't really play them on a computer at all. I really think this format, like every now and then I'm just like, I need to go and play Super Mario 2 and I want to play it all the way through. This is what I'm going to do for my day off. this is my favorite way to play it because I can be sitting anywhere and playing it. It makes me happy. So that's one of the reasons I don't really probably won't do a video on self-hosted gaming emulators. And I don't use them. That's the thing. And I don't like doing a video to show someone how to do something that I wouldn't really use because it's less the type of video that I like doing because there's a lot of time that goes into the prep work of a video. And there's way more time if it's not something you've used. That becomes very challenging. That's why many of the videos are like, hey, I have these TrueNAS servers or things I'm doing for clients. Those are easy videos to do. As a new person starting a home lab, would you suggest a new UniFi Dream Machine or should I get the individual UniFi components? No, the Dream Machine's nice. Just make sure you don't buy something too small for what your internet speed might be. I've talked about this in some of the other ones. Like if you're like, hey, I know I'm getting this speed internet and I want to be able to take advantage of that, don't buy a UniFi Dream Machine model that can't support that. That's all. Oh, sorry, yawning a little bit, getting a little bit tired. Sorry if cause anyone else to yawn. But best of luck on the home lab starting. I will end this here. It's been an hour. I have a few things I want to do today. That's why I did the vlog a little bit earlier. And I'm going to go outside and touch grass and do all those fun things. But thank you all for joining. Look for that. Check out my cloud video that just got posted. I will finish editing probably in the morning. It's almost done. There's a couple minor tweaks and some chapters I got to throw in. But me and Alan Jude, we got that video tomorrow. We're talking about ZFS and NVMe. So we recorded it yesterday. It edited most of it all today. And then I'll finish it up tomorrow and get it published and get it uploaded because it's fun. Alan, it's hard to, you just meet some people that you're like, I had that interview with him I did a few months back. Then I met him at the 45 Drives Creator Summit and then had a great conversation with him. And me and him are like, we should just do some more ZFS deep dive videos, which is alignment with what I want to do is deep dives and things. So we get nerdy and we get detailed. So definitely look forward to that. I had a great time talking to him about it. We talked about sector alignments and NVMe and caching and all kinds of stuff and transaction groups and CXL and NUMA nodes. We didn't go all over the place. We stayed on the topic of ZFS, but we really dove deep into understanding the performance of ZFS. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully you are too. Thanks, everyone, and take care.